That is what Epstein basically did. Compromise powerful people through sexual blackmail, entice them first with the attractive of-age models at these parties, then bring them to your ranch in New Mexico or New York or Florida or Paris, thinking that they're going to be hanging out like Prince Andrew's dumbass thought, and the next thing you know, you're hanging out with a 17-year-old and they got you. So for those of you that don't know, here's Jeffrey Epstein, right? Obviously disgraced American financier that is, obviously is Jewish, right? Supporter of Israel. And here's his backer, Leslie Herbert Wexner, okay? American billionaire, businessman, and co-founder, chairman emeritus of Bath and Body Works, Inc., okay? Owns a bunch of different brands, Victoria's Secret, etc. Right? This guy, Les Wexner, was Epstein's financial backer. Epstein, whatever you guys want to call it. Right? He was his financial backer. He is the reason why Epstein had the amount of money and resources that he had. And we're going to also figure out the women as well. Okay? Now, Ghislaine Maxwell was his right-hand woman, helping him out with, making things happen. And we're going to talk about this in a bit more detail. Then you guys got here Jean-Luc Brunel. Okay? This guy was a model recruit. He was a French model scout. He gained prominence by leading the international modeling agency Karen Models and founded MC2 Model Management with financing by Jeffrey Epstein, which we know his financing came from who? Les Wexner. Les Wexner was the financial backbone of Jeffrey Epstein because no one knew how Epstein had all this goddamn money. Well, it came from this guy, Wexner. And Jean-Luc Brunel was the guy that was recruiting the models. He died in 2022 through mysterious means in a prison just like your boy Epstein. Okay? Ghislaine Maxwell is currently in prison. She's alive. She's in federal prison right now. She's incarcerated in Tallahassee, right here in Florida. Okay? It's a low-security United States federal prison for female inmates in Tallahassee, Florida, with a designated capacity of 812. Right? And she got sentenced to some significant amount of time. Yeah, 20 years. Okay? Then her father, Robert Maxwell, okay, who was a Czechoslovak-born British media proprietor, politician, and fraudster. And I think the most important thing for you guys to understand is that, yes, he's one of them boys. As all of these people are, except for Jean-Luc Brunel. They're all them boys when you check that early life. Okay? Jean-Luc Brunel, I don't think, was one of them. He was French, but I don't think he was... Nope, he was not. Okay. But everyone else is. And the other thing that's important for you guys to realize is that Robert Maxwell was a spy for the Mossad. You don't believe me? Here's how I know. He went ahead and got this guy, Mordecai Vanunu, put in prison. Why? Because Mordecai Vanunu was a whistleblower on Israel's secret nuclear program. Okay? He went to the press in the 80s, revealed the details of Israel's nuclear weapon program to the British press in 1986, and was subsequently lured to Italy by the Israeli intelligence Mossad, where he was drugged and abducted. Guess who snitched on him that got him picked up in Italy? Robert Maxwell. Because Robert Maxwell owned the news company that Mordecai Vanunu wanted to sell the story to. Okay? Give me ones in the chat if this all makes sense so far. Because I need you guys to understand who's who and their connections. Again, Jeffrey Epstein, the financier, Ghislaine Maxwell, his right-hand woman, her father, former spy for Mossad, Mordecai Vanunu, who got snitched on by Robert Maxwell, right? Just to prove it to you guys that he was a spy. And Jean-Luc Brunel, who was the model finder / recruiter, and Les Wexner, who was the backbone financially. Give me ones if this all makes sense to you so I can go ahead and explain how the fuck this all works. And now that you guys got faces to the names, we're going to go through a little history lesson. All right. So the other thing that we need to understand also is the mega group. And yes, the mega group was an informal group of influential Jewish entrepreneurs involved in Jewish affairs. It was founded in 1991 by Les Wexner and Charles Bronfman, okay, another guy that's also in the Epstein ring, as a study group. The group met twice yearly for philanthropy and Judaism seminars. It is said to have had 50 members, including Hollywood director Steven Spielberg. Wexner led the group with Bronfman, and it inspired several philanthropic initiatives such as the Partnership for Excellence in Jewish Education, Birthright Israel, and support for the renewal of Hillel International. The group became known to a wider public through a Wall Street Journal report in May 1998. As a pro-Israel lobby group, the organization is also said to have tried to influence U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East. In 2003, it employed Republican political consultant Frank Luntz to help the group mobilize support for Israel. The group also said to have had contacts with Israeli intelligence agency Mossad and to have served as a base for intelligence operations in the United States. Jeffrey Epstein is said to have used the group to build up his network of high-ranking contacts in business, media, and politics. The billionaire Wexner was a major financial supporter of Epstein and later claimed to have known nothing of his criminal activities. Okay? So now we went over Epstein, Les Wexner, the mega group, Jean-Luc Brunel, Ghislaine Maxwell, Robert Maxwell, Mordecai Vanunu, and we went over Charles Bronfman, who, let's go ahead and bring him in as well. Charles Bronfman, also one of them, is a Canadian-American businessman and philanthropist and is a member of the Canadian Jewish Bronfman family with an estimated net worth of $2.5 billion in 2023. Bronfman was ranked by Forbes as the 1,217th wealthiest person in the world. Born into a Jewish family in Montreal. So, a lot of people wonder, how the hell did Jeffrey Epstein do this and do it for so long without being caught? So, this is how the scheme worked, chat. Epstein is a member of the mega group, as you guys know, a group of influential and wealthy, successful Jewish billionaires and entrepreneurs and philanthropists, etc., who had a dual mission to support Israel from the United States from a financial perspective, as well and have ties to Mossad, and also lobby for Israel's behalf and, you know, support birthright, get people to go to Israel, fall in love with the country, move there, serve in the IDF, etc. And the more nefarious side, which is we're going to talk about Epstein's blackmail ring. Now, the way Epstein would pull the scheme off was Ghislaine Maxwell, who was a British/Jewish socialite, would go to the United Nations. And she would often talk about the ocean and preserving the ocean and, you know, all these humanitarian things, right? And when she'd be there, she'd build up some contacts. And what she would do is like, hey, you know, we're going to have a party, etc. You should come by. And, you know, because at these UN things, you know, you got a lot of powerful government officials. People are there out of town, right? They're visiting New York for these meetings. They're leaving their foreign country. They're there with their security details. They want to party a little bit, hang out, whatever. Cool. So what she would do is she'd bring in Jeff, and Jeff would bring in a bunch of models. And these models were supplied to him by the guy I showed you before, Jean-Luc Brunel, who was the French recruiter, because he would have the models who were both of age and sometimes underage. But up front, they'd be the of age models. And you guys are wondering, well, where did the models come from? Well, guess what? Les Wexner owned Victoria's Secret. Victoria's Secret needs models. So Epstein had a direct line to not only models through Brunel, who supplied him with them, but they also, a lot of the times, will double as models for Victoria's Secret. So Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell come to these parties and bring a bunch of attractive women. Well, I'll tell you this. If you're a guy that's bringing attractive women to every party you go to, you're going to be popular very quickly, and people are going to want to know who you are. So what Epstein would do would be like, hey, look, yeah, you like these girls? Hey, man, we party like this all the time. You should come on my jet, right? You should come to my house. Because at the time, Epstein had a couple of different houses. He had one in New York City and Manhattan. He had one in Nevada, if I'm not mistaken. Or was it, no, New Mexico. Excuse me, I think it's New Mexico, excuse me. He had one in France, Paris. And he had one, obviously, in West Palm Beach. Or Palm Beach, not West Palm Beach specifically, but Palm Beach County. And what would happen is, while this was happening, he was, you know, recruiting people and having these parties. He also had a network of underage high school girls, right, that were giving out massages. I've covered this in detail in one of my other episodes. If you guys want, Fed Reacts, look it up. Jeffrey Epstein, first episode I did where I cover the state case entirely. We go through the reports and everything. Very disturbing stuff. But for the purpose of this podcast, we're not going to talk too much about it. What you need to know is that he had a whole network of high school girls that he would pay several $100s, this is the early 2000s and the 90s, to give himself and his guest massages. So he'd go to these parties, make connections, and tell them, hey, you should come hang out with us. So what ends up happening is these people would come to his house or go to his ranch in New Mexico or go to his villa in New York City or his home in Paris, and there'd be underage girls there. Sometimes the people would know, sometimes they wouldn't know. But the point is, they'd be compromised. And next thing you know, you're there hanging out with Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and you're getting a massage from some girl that you don't know, and you find out that she's 15. Well, I'll tell you what.
Gotcha, bitch.
Now, you got to do what Mr. Epstein says, okay? And a lot of you guys are probably wondering, well, why would he compromise these individuals? Well, for a couple of reasons. For power, for leverage, so he can call in favors, and most importantly, because he was an asset for Israeli intelligence, okay? We already know that Ghislaine Maxwell's father was involved with Israeli intelligence, So, I mean, I don't think it would be too far-fetched to assume that Epstein was also involved in intelligence. Now, with that said, does that mean he was like a Mossad agent, so to speak? Not necessarily. These intelligence agencies, guys, obviously have their employees, but they also have sources. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone like Epstein was someone who'd provide information here and there. And since he's a crook and a criminal, he's going to provide that information to keep himself safe. Okay? So this is why when Acosta, the United States attorney for the Southern District of Florida at the time, when he was asked why he never prosecuted Epstein, it was because he was told that he was Israeli intelligence, which he was. He was an asset for Israeli intelligence because he was able to give them information on powerful individuals or compromise them. A perfect example of this is a guy named Bill Gates. So Bill Gates, as you guys know, the CEO of Microsoft, one of the world's most richest men for a very long time, was compromised by Jeffrey Epstein. And the thing with Bill Gates was, what Epstein did with him and what Epstein was interested in was technology. So what he would do is he would basically compromise people like Bill Gates and tell them, hey, look, I need you to donate a bunch of money to MIT on my behalf for their technology program. And what would happen is they'd get these endowments, right? These very sizable charity donations. And they would donate it on behalf of Jeffrey Epstein. And what Jeffrey Epstein would do is he would oversee this technology or these studies being done. And all the new stuff that comes out of it, since he had direct oversight, guess what he would do with that? He'd give it to the Israelis. Okay? Now, anyone that isn't familiar with Israeli intelligence and Israeli clandestine activities, let me tell you what the Israelis do. They are known for stealing information from other world powers, nuclear world powers, and using it to their advantage. They've been doing this for decades. You can look at like Jonathan Pollard. You can look at the NUMEC situation. Israel is notorious for stealing technology from other countries, to include the United States and their allies, and using it as a bargaining chip to get Jewish people that are in other countries, such as Russia, for example, like Jonathan Pollard did, and using that information to negotiate to get these Jewish people out of Russia to migrate to Israel. Right? They've been caught many times doing this. So Epstein's interest was garnering leverage on powerful people to procure endowments to universities to collect information on technology. Now, he did other things as well. Obviously, there's sexual blackmail and everything else, but that was one of the main things he did. Okay? And that kept him safe from being prosecuted. As you guys can see from the United States Attorney's Office out of down here in South Florida, they didn't prosecute him because they were told to hands off his intelligence. And this is how they ran their scheme for many, many years. So, to recap, Jeffrey Epstein, a member of the Mega Group. The Mega Group run by Les Wexner. Les Wexner, the billionaire that funds everything, owns Bath and Body Works, Inc., which also owns Victoria's Secret, which means they have a steady supply of models, attractive women, right, for Victoria's Secret. Jean-Luc Brunel, he would go ahead and get the models, okay? These models would be given to Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, the socialites. They'd go to the parties. They'd meet powerful people, compromise them. Once they're compromised, they got them. Once they got them, then they can ask favors, blackmail them, etc., and basically go ahead and influence them. With this information, they sell it to intelligence agencies, such as the Mossad, etc., and that is what Epstein basically did. Compromise powerful people through sexual blackmail, entice them first with the attractive of-age models at these parties, then bring them to your ranch in New Mexico or New York or Florida or Paris, thinking that they're going to be hanging out like Prince Andrew's dumbass thought, and the next thing you know, you're hanging out with a 17-year-old and they fucking got you. Gotcha, bitch. And then you're doing interviews on 60 Minutes looking like an ass clown, sweating. Don't know what's going on. Bill Clinton, etc. So that is what Epstein did. That's how they ran it. And Jean-Luc Brunel, since he was a model scout, he also would supply Epstein with underage female models, as well as the underage females that Epstein had from the local high school that he was recruiting with his massage ring. And he would fly them around to his many different homes. And that's how he ended up getting charged for sex trafficking federally later on, because these underage girls were being trafficked to multiple states and multiple countries to service his clients. Give me ones in the chat that makes sense. That is an overview. I hope I explained that well for you guys, nice and succinctly, so you guys understand who Jeffrey Epstein was and how he did it and how he used his girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, and her contacts to make this happen. Give me ones that all makes sense.
It's just very strange for a lot of people that the list of clients that went to the island has not been made public.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? Probably will be, by the way. Probably.
So if you're able to, you'll be...
Yeah, I'd certainly take a look at it. Now, Kennedy's interesting because it's so many years ago. You know, they do that for danger, too, because, you know, endangers certain people, et cetera, et cetera. So Kennedy is very different from the Epstein thing. But yeah, I'd be inclined to do the Epstein. I'd have no problem with it.
If the beat hits, I'm ready to go. Don't swag just because I love rap. Fuck